Okay.
Going live
Hare
now.
Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our beloved speaker for today, His Holiness Janananda Swami Maharaj, and all glories to Samud Vaishnavi devotees. Devotees, we thank God for being here as always. And Maharaj, again, we thank you so much. Speaking to us from France, I believe. Um, Maharaj is very busy, as we all probably know. But somehow Maharaj squeezed his tight schedule to be with us today.
Not very busy.
And
Yeah, I'm a lazy fellow. I'm not doing anything actually.
I've kept him waiting for us for so
Yeah.
long. My apologies. So,
I'm just
well, thank you
waiting.
so much, Maharaj. So, without further ado, I think we have two verses to cover today.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30 and 31.
Interesting subject matter.
Oh, Maharaj, I was announcing to the devotees last month that I feel for the speakers for this month.
Well, first time math is over now, so
Yes,
that's okay.
because whichever way you take it, but uh, Sri Krishna wants us to know. So, what can we do?
Mm-mm.
We may put the well, Maharaj, maybe you may chant Mangalacharam or whatever. If you want me to, I can put it.
I want to chant a few verses from a bhajan. And I
Okay,
want,
please. Here
yeah,
you may.
I chose some verses of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, but you're going to have to give me permission to enter in.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, I don't know, you're the host, so you have to give me permission.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay, so I'll just see what it is. I don't know where I go to get to see this. Let me see. I press share. Here we go.
Yes.
Allow. Here it is. And let me know if you see it.
Yes, we can see.
You can see something, is it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just
1893.
yes. I want to reduce the pictures so I can see nicely. I can't see it because the pictures are so big. Come on, if you got there we go. That should work.
I think it's clear enough, Maharaj.
Yeah, it's clear for you, but I can't see because all the devotees' pictures are on the screen. So I've just taken them off, so I can see now.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, so this is a song. I hope it works. I don't know if it's going to work because I have this problem sometimes of scrolling down and scrolling up. Okay, it worked. If you go back to number one now, it's number three. It was on number one just now. I'm not sure how to do this. Let me try this one. Here I've got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Instructions. This is our instructions for worshipping Lord Chaitanya, the moon of the island of Godrumadweep. And this is by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, apparently compiled in 1893, probably before most of us were born, I guess. I doubt whether any of you were remembering who you were in 1893. But here we are, Bhaktivinoda's with us today. So we'll sing this because it's kind of relevant to the subject, I think, to a large degree at least. Are we ready? Everyone ready? You got your tongues on? You put your
Yes, Maharaj.
you got the tongues in, okay. So I'll sing a line, you sing a line after I sing a line. Is that okay? Sing
Yes, Maharaj.
along. Sing a line along. Jadi te hori pad saroja suda. Actually, I'll sing two lines. Rasapanna puram hridayam satpatam. All together. Yadi
Yadite Haripada Saruja Suda Rasapana Param Hridayam Sapatam.
You're gonna have to mute though, because everyone, it's just like a big because everyone's, at different distances. and the sound is not hard, not together. It's like coming at different times. All mute, but sing. Sing to Krishna in your heart. Sing to whoever's with you in your heart, okay? Pariritya griham kali baba mayam bhajagodum kanam na punjavidam. Pariritya griham kali baba mayam bhajagodum kanana kunjavidam. Oh, I'll read the translation actually. It's really very relevant. In your heart, if your heart wishes to be always absorbed in drinking the ambrosial mellows of the lotus feet of Lord Hare, and give up mundane household life, full of Kali Yuga quarrels and strife, and just worship the beautiful moon of Godruma's forest bowers. Dana Yovana Jivana Raja Sukhana Nityam Unukshana Nashaparam. Dana Yovana Jivana Raja Sukhana Nityam Unukshana Nashaparam. Yajagamya kata sakalam vipalam patagodum akanana kunjavidam. Yajagamya kata sakalam vipalam patagodum akanana kunjavidam. Material riches, youth, long duration of life and royal happiness. None of these are eternal. At any moment they may be destroyed. Give up all useless topics of mundane conversation and just worship Lord Gora, the moon of Godruma's forest bowers. Ramani Jana Sangha Sukhang Tasake Changrame Bayadang Purushartha Param. Ramani Jana Sangha Sukham Shasake Charame Payadam Purushartharam. Hari Nama Sudarasa Matamatir Bhajagoru Makanana Kunjavidam. Hari Nama Sudha Samatamatir Bhajagodrumakanana kunjavidam. O friend, the pleasure to be had in the company of beautiful young women ultimately turns to fearfulness and distracts one from the true goal of human life. With your mind intoxicated by the nectarian mellows of the holy name of Lord Hare, just worship the beautiful moon of Godruma's forest bowers. Hari Kirtana Madhya Tatang Sajanai Pariveshtita Jambuna Dabdaharim. Hari Kirtana Madhya Tatang Sajanai Pariveshtita Jambuna Dabdaharim. Nijagoda Janaika Kripa Jalading Vajagodrumakanana Kunjavidam. Nijagoda Janaika Kripa Jalading Vajagodrumakanana Kunjavidam. In the midst of Hari Kirtan, surrounded by his loving associates, he is the same dark Lord Hare, but now shining with the lustre of molten gold. He is the exclusive ocean of mercy for his own Gaudiya devotees. Just worship the beautiful moon of Godruma's forest bowers. Kali kukuramurkara bhavataram harinama mohosharadhanataram. Kali kukuramurkara bhavataram harinama mohoshada Janaparam. Patitata dayada Umatitarang Matyagodum Panana Kunjavidam. Patitata dayadra Sumatitarang Matyagodum Kanana Kunjavidam. His mood is that of wielding a stick or chasing away the mad dog of Kali Yuga. He's absorbed in doing the holy name of Hare, the great remedy for material existence. His heart is melted with compassion for the fallen souls who are suffering, and his transcendental form is very beautiful. Just worship the beautiful moon of Godruma's forest bowers. Shruti varna danadi nayasya kripa janane balavat bhajane navina. Shruti varna danadi nayasya kripa janane balavat bhajane navina. Dhammo hetuka bhava pata isake Bhajagodamakanana kunjavidam. Dhammohetuka bhava patahi sake Bhajagodamakanana kunjavidam. O friend, without the devotional performance of purely intense bhajan, your vast scholarship, noble family lineage, wealth, and so on, are completely ineffective for invoking the mercy of the Lord. With a service attitude that is unmotivated, just worship the beautiful moon of Goduma's forest bowers. Bhaja Goduma Kanana Kunjavidam. Bhaja Goduma Kanana Kunjavidam. Bhaja Goduma Kanana Kunjavidam. One more time. Bhaja Goduma Kanana Kunjavidam. Nama Om Vishnu. Oh, there's another one. Hari Sevaka Sevana Dharma Paro Hari Nama Rasamrita Panarataha. Hari Sevaka Sevana Dharma Paro Hari Nama Rasamrita Panarataha. Nati Dainya Daya Para Manoyuto Bhajago Ramakanana Kunjavidam. Nati Dainya Daya Paramana Yuto Bhajagodrumakanana Kunjavidam. Remaining fixed in the service of Hari's servants, being addicted to drinking the sweet nectar of the holy name of Hare, and endowed with modesty, humility, and compassion, offering all respect unto others, just worship the beautiful moon of Godruma's forest bowers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Tunyavadidi Astatya Satarine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Tunyavadidi Astatya Satarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya all together Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasari
Sari
Gaura
Guru
Bhaktavinda
Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri
Jai
Jai ki jai. Harinama
Jai
Sankirtana ki jai. Brihat Madanga ki jai.
Jai
Jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees and all
Hare
glories to
Krishna
all the unassembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha
Kripa
Kripasindu
Sindhu Devacha Patitana Pavanebhyo
Sarvavadishya Vaishya Vibhu Namo Namaha.
So you want me to get straight into it, Saturday, Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj.
We haven't got much time to waste. What time do you want me to shut up?
As long as you can go.
Oh my goodness. I can go anytime
Still
you
in the
want.
time.
Whatever time you want. Just cancel me out anytime you want. Let's do that.
Yes, Maharaj.
We do apologize tonight if any devotees have any discomfort with the subject matter. I don't know if any ladies are with us tonight, for instance. Devotees of different, let's say, sexual orientations, whatever its terminology. It's all right. Don't worry. Lord Chaitanya is for everyone, as we just sang. Worship Lord Chaitanya. He's the whole secret of spiritual life. It's not about this, that, and the other. It's putting Lord Chaitanya in the center of our life. By remembering Lord Chaitanya, the impossible becomes possible. If we forget him, even the easy things become difficult. So it's really about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And of course, the expansions of Lord Chaitanya in other various forms of Nityananda and his associates and so on. But it's all about mercy, of understanding that on our own, there's no way that we can control. Oh my goodness, there's a storm outside, some kind of whirlwind. What to do? Maybe it's a Trinavarta demon who's suddenly appeared on the scene out there to blind us all. Material energy is like that. It's like a whirlwind blinding our consciousness all the time. So tonight's verses, or this evening's verses, or the morning's verses, whatever time of day you're at, are very eye-opening. They can perhaps be a little challenging sometimes if we still identify ourselves with the body, and if we forget what the ultimate goal of life is. Sometimes we think it's some kind of justification of our conditional life or something. No, the goal of life is to change our conditioning away from identifying ourselves as whatever it is we are. We have to work with with our bodies and our minds and our whatever we've got, etc., accordingly, in a way which is favorable for the objective. But we have to see that the objective is always at the forefront and not our own agenda or our own conditioning. Using our conditioning, but the goal of life is not just to facilitate our conditioning or to achieve our agenda, unless our agenda is pure devotional service, of course. So we're reading from the third canto today, chapter 20, text 30, and I guess 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 We have to thank Krishna for giving us fingers. Otherwise, sometimes it's difficult to know when you're the only one in the room and you're chanting. And you've got to chant twice, otherwise you don't know where to start the next chant. So you sometimes forget whether you're chanting, the others are also chanting, and so on. So fingers are very useful for keeping records when we chant Om Namo Bhagavate or any other repetitive mantras, so to speak, on these type of Zoom programs. So this is the verse today, and continuation here of a description, of course, of Lord Brahma's creation of various entities. We've already heard how from the, what would we call it, the rear end, the backside, how various entities were manifested, and Lord Brahma then to cast off that body which was contaminated. And the same with us, in a sense, we don't necessarily cast off the physical body, it shouldn't be misunderstood, but cast off the mentality which creates the physical body, or let's say creates entanglement in various birth and death in this material world. We have to cast that body off. It's not a question of just casting the body off, but it's a question of awakening our true body, so to speak, at least our true mentality. So in this particular case, Lord Brahma cast it off, and that body which he cast off became the evening, twilight of the evening, which was accepted, as we heard, by the demons as a beautiful young damsel. And thus demons are generally very attached to sex life, or the beautiful forms of this world which incite passionate desires to enjoy the forms. And this is exactly the opposite of Krishna consciousness. And when we see everything as Krishna's form, or we can't say we're not impersonalists, when we see everything as a creation of Krishna and nothing but his energies, and understand how to use it in relation with Krishna, then that can be channeled, transformed into in favorable devotional service. And ultimately, of course, to see the transcendental form of the Lord himself, and thus losing all attraction for the forms of this world. So we'll read the verse. I'll read a line at a time. You can repeat in your own ways, wherever you are. Anyonya shlesha yotunga, Anyonya shlesha yotunga, Nirantara payodaram, Nirantara payodaram, Sunasam sudvijang snigda, Sunasam sadvijang snigda, Hasalilavalokanam, Hasalilavalokanam. Because of, I say two verses, and if someone can roll the verse down, we'll go on the word for word now on this verse, please. Synonyms. I'll just go through them briefly. Anyonya, to each other. Shleshaya, because of clinging. Shlesha. Interesting word. Shlesha. Clinging, holding on to, joined. Utunga, raised. Nirantar, without intervening space. Payadaram, breasts. Sunasam, shapely nose. Sudvijam, beautiful teeth. Snigda, lovely, you know that verse, I think. Hasa, smile, you probably know that verse. Lila avalokanam, sportful glance, and lila, sport, pastime, like that. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, no purpose. Her breasts projected upward because of their clinging to each other. This word clinging, of course, holding on to, I think we all know that word. And they were too contiguous. The word contiguous is not I don't think is a very commonly used word, at least it's not in my world very much used. But, again, it basically means the same thing, connected to each other, like you can't say gap. To admit, rather than you translate to admit, it doesn't mean, I admit my crime or something like that. It means doesn't allow any intervening space. It doesn't admit any intervening space. So that because they're two perfectly formed and they're so close together, clinging to each other, They're too contiguous to admit any intervening space. She had a shapely nose and beautiful teeth, a lovely smile played on her lips, and she cast a sportful glance at the Asuras. Thanks to Jerry Dave, Dinesh Goradia. Oh, I don't know. That wasn't part of the purport. Okay. The next verse, 3:20:31. So I guess you've got a book with you. You can get the gist of that verse. It's a description of the captivating features of this beautiful apparent woman, illusory creation in a sense of Maya covering the conscious, and we're seeing some beautiful woman. As we know, different entities will see a beautiful woman differently. I mean, when it's a dead corpse, it's a completely different view to some people. It's just a source of maybe food or horror. And when it's a beautiful young lady, it's a source of attraction, lustful desires. And to others, it's just a source of habitation. It varies from one entity to another, depending on the state of the individual's senses, how they perceive things, their level of consciousness, and also the state of what's being perceived. Even in our life, I mean, generally when a lady or man, even when they get elderly, like in the 80s, 90s, the same attraction is not really incited as it was when they were teenagers or young 20s, like that. We go on to the next verse. There are many descriptions of what we look like when we're old. Quite different to what we just read. No teeth. If you're in a lady's body, the breasts are described, hanging down, sometimes like string beans in an nectar devotion. It describes sometimes, and things like that. Not very attractive. Nose maybe still a little bit there. No teeth left, and so on. Very rarely smile when we get old, and so on. Not attractive to others. Next verse. Guhanting vridayatmanam, guhanting vridayatmanam, nilalakavarutinim, nilalakavarutinim, upalabhyasura dharma, upalabhyasura dharma, sarve samumuhu sriyam, sarve samumuhu sriyam. Synonyms. Synonyms. Word for word. There they go. Guhantim, hiding, guha, hidden. Lord Ram's one of his main devotees, Guha, King Guha. Vidaya, out of shyness, Vida. Atmanam, herself. Nila, dark. Alaka, hair. Rutinim, a bunch. Upalabhya, upon imagining. Asuraha, the demons. Dharma, O Vidura, the name of Vidura. Sarve, all. Samumuhuhu, were captivated. Sriyam, woman. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Adorned with dark tresses, she hid herself, as it were, out of shyness. Upon seeing that girl, the Asuras were all infatuated with an appetite for sex. Purport. The difference between demons and demigods is that a beautiful woman very easily attracts the minds of demons, but she cannot attract the mind of a godly person. So this is pretty black and white. We generally find that there's not so absolutely black and white amongst aspiring devotees, at least. Certainly amongst people in general, it may be a little bit more black and white, but it's not entirely black and white either, because everyone has a little devotee inside somewhere, a little bit of piety, a little devotion. Maybe a lot of demoniac nature is there, very strong, Kali Yuga, but some goodliness is there too. So sometimes people realize this is, improper. Religious principles, all the religions of the world warn us of the dangers of falling victim to this attraction, so to speak. But it's almost impossible to avoid for a conditioned soul in Kali Yuga. So even aspiring devotees are often afflicted, sometimes infatuated with attraction for the beautiful form of man. If you're in a woman's body, I guess it's they may become infatuated the same way as a man may be for a woman or whatever. A godly person is full of knowledge. It's one key. Knowledge can be very helpful. And a demoniac person is full of ignorance. Knowledge of our true self, knowledge of our goal, knowledge of the fallacies, you could say, of this material body. I mean, if we were to only look at it from a practical point of view, I mean, Shankaracharya, Lord Buddha, many others have described this body in its kind of breakdown as a bag containing bones and pus and fat and mucus and all kinds of fleshy substances. Not very attractive. Hairs, teeth. I mean, if you take everything as an independent component, it certainly wouldn't be very attractive. Here, take this. This is a bag of hair, a bag of skin, a bag of bones, a bag of fat. And when it's all combined together by the workings of Mayadevi, then the body appears to be very attractive, maybe effulgent, shiny, soft, and so on and so forth. And the lust mode of passion captivates the boy and the girl to try to enjoy each other. This is the usual nature of the material world. But if we just take the skin off, I doubt very much whether any people would have the same attraction for the same body. Even if you take a portion of the skin off, it's enough to send many people running for their lives. They're so freaked out seeing, a whole arm or something with no skin on it. It's a very scary and ugly sight in one sense. And hair, I mean, obviously different people see differently, but generally speaking, for a lady, hair is very important. Some ladies like to shave off now, I've seen. But generally speaking, their hair is one of the most rating features of a lady's body, so to speak. So we like to make her hair very, very beautiful, but if their hair is a big mess, or if a person's very smelly or something, the attraction's not there, or if they have horrible teeth, or a nose as big as the face or something, it's not so attractive. This is how Maya sculptures the beauty of the body. They say beauty is in the eye of the perceiver, okay, but there are certainly certain parameters which almost everyone can agree upon, at least humans, when it comes to beauty and ugliness. Not always, but mostly it's like that. Just as a child is attracted by a beautiful doll, similarly a demon who is less intelligent or full of ignorance is attracted by material beauty and an appetite for sex. I mean, sex is, they sometimes say sex makes the world go round. They call it love, but it's actually sex, enjoying the sexual relationships or other forms of sex are there. Sex is can be a very broad subject. It doesn't just refer to male, female, or male, or whatever people find enjoyable in the relationships of the bodies, but it can, in one sense, is the very concept of trying to enjoy Krishna's energies. We're supposed to be Prakriti, not Purusha. So when the Prakriti tries to enjoy that which belongs to the Purusha, it's illicit. It's illicit understanding. So knowledge is important. The godly person knows that this nicely dressed and ornamented attraction of high breasts, high hips, beautiful nose, fair complexion, and so on, thin waist, whatever else, is Maya. All the beauty a woman can display is only a combination of flesh and blood. Here it says, Sri Shankaracharya advised all persons not to be attracted by the interaction of flesh and blood. They should be attracted by the real beauty in spiritual life. The real beauty is Krishna and Radha. One who is attracted by the beauty of Radha and Krishna cannot be attracted by the false beauty of this material world. That is the difference between a demon and a godly person, or a devotee. I think that's the end of the purport. I may be wrong. Okay, it is. Jolly good. Well, as we can see, this subject matter, although maybe a little touchy, is foundational. In fact, is an essential principle to deal with if we want to advance in spiritual life. If we want the movement to advance, if we want to advance individually, if we want to be happy, so on and so forth, bring peace to the world, then this is a very essential feature or subject matter to let's say understand how applicable it is to us, how we are, how it is where we're situated, and what is the relevance of this subject matter. So it's too big a subject matter to expect, even if we tried to cover in a short span of 1 or 2 hours. There's some pinpoints, some major realizations, maybe some aids, but it's practically the most important subject of all, because in the spiritual world, Adi Ras, the original relationship between Radha and Krishna, is the essential truth. And without understanding that we're meant to facilitate the rasa, the Adi Rasa, then we tend to be busy trying to enjoy separately from Krishna our own rasa. And we become, instead of rasa, it becomes rascal. So, that's the nature of this material world. We all see ourselves in the center. And many times we think Krishna is there, or the supplier to satisfy my selfish desires. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read something, because one of the cures for this problem is the biggest problem we all have, basically speaking, is this attraction for sex desire, how it comes subtle, gross, extended, family, and so on. Society, love is another thing, but it's basically the biggest challenge we face. So we're going to read from Srila Prabhupada's words on the subject, because hearing the words of knowledge from self-realized soul, one who has not influenced in any way, as Prabhupada mentioned, a godly person, is not attracted like this. They're not influenced like this. So we're going to hear from Srila Prabhupada, who's not influenced by these desires or these attractions, subtle or gross. And by hearing from a pure devotee, of course, I'm reading, so it's not quite the same by any means, but at least the words are there to reflect upon. Sometimes you can follow, sometimes you can't, what I'm going to read. If I can, I just have to close this a minute. Exactly how we do that, I'm not sure. Here we go. Just close that program. There we go. Okay, now I can go back to where I was. So, okay, bear with me if you want to. I'll just mention one thing, which was from a letter from Prabhupada in 1968. The letter was called The Grand Procession. Well, Prabhupada mentions the Grand Procession. He's talking about the wedding party, and how they're rowing all night long, trying to get to their destination, but they didn't reach because the anchor was still in the ground. So this sex attraction is a bit like an anchor. Prabhupada said that the grand procession is sex life. He said we're 50% liberated if we can make it known. That's quite let's say, it's a little bit deeper than it's not a question of gritting one's teeth or putting some iron grills around certain parts of one's body or whatever it is, gagging your mouth, tying yourself up, blindfolding yourself, beating yourself, and that's not what it's about. It's about actually progressing in spiritual life. So the attraction, even though the desire, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, and in the next instruction, we see Prabhupada where commenting on Rupa Goswami's first verse on Vachravekam Manasa Krodavekam, how we have to learn to tolerate these urges, pushings, attractions. And the Bhagavad Gita, very nice verses, Apuramam Achalashpadishtam, and so on. The ocean is ever being filled with rivers, but remains ever still. Similarly, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires can alone attain peace. So it's a peaceful state when we're not disturbed. Very hard not to be disturbed. Kali Yuga is, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj describes Kali Yuga as the constitution of Kali Yuga as being annoyance and disturbance, basically speaking. It's a very annoying age and very disturbing age. Very hard not to be disturbed by what's going on around one or within one on the subtle plane. So that's the grand procession. That was from a letter to Satsvarup Maharaj in 1968. Now, one of the most famous verses in relationship to this, and there's so many, but we'll just read one. This is in, let's see, where is this? Oh my goodness, I didn't put the reference. Some of you may know. I think it's the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, I'm pretty sure. Yan maitunari grihamedi sukham mitu chang. Kandu yanena karayoi vadukadukam. Tripyanti neha kripana bahudukha bhaja. Kandu tivan manasi jang vishaheta diraha. Sex life is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Grihamedis, so-called grihastas, who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. In the Bhagavad Gita we have Yei samsparshadopoka dukkha yoni evating. The wise man doesn't take pleasure in the source of misery, sense gratification. He knows it has a beginning and an end, unless he doesn't indulge in those things. The Kripanas, the fools who are just the opposite of Brahmins, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are dhira, those who are sober or self-controlled, you could say, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching, are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. I'll ask a question, Sahadev Prabhu. Do you want me to share this or not?
Yes, Maharaj, you may share.
Let me see if I can work that one out.
Yes.
I'll try. I'll have to go back to the other page and see if it's possible. I think it is. Maybe you can see it, I don't know.
Yes, we can see.
I'm just picking a few things here. It may not be in such a, I don't spend my whole day just, redoing things and going back and forth. I just picked a few things out of here and there, some from Bhakti Vikash Maharaj's Brahmachari guidebook, or whatever it's called, and some from elsewhere, here and there and everywhere. So in the purport to that verse, Prabhupada, I just mentioned a few things. It's not all the things that are in the purport. I just picked a few things out. Because of a lack of education and culture, people are victimized by the false happiness of sex life. So that's one thing. Lack of culture, lack of spiritual education, and lack of culture. What is culture? It's a society which is based upon achievement of a certain principle. And real culture means Varnashram Dharma, which does accommodate sex life. Krishna himself says, I am that sex according to religious principles. The Grihastha ashram, married life, is the prominent ashram. And generally speaking, everyone in society goes through the Grihastha ashram. And they stay in it their whole life. I think if I would use the word concession, any kind of sex life is binding. But when it's like, one is illicit, one you want to get, punished for, then you're not going to get so punished for. One is, it's like taking drugs. If they're prescribed by the doctor, you don't get arrested. But if you do it yourself, then you can get arrested and get in big trouble. So it's like that, and that's one ashram system, to facilitate to whatever degree possible, restrict, facilitate, help human beings. Without Varnashram Dharma, there's no real human society. So to help human beings to regulate their conditional propensities, which are very difficult to overcome, in a God-given way, God-given system, not just in a whimsical way, just enjoy whenever you can, but according to religious principles. That relationship between man and woman is clearly clarified in the religious scriptures as far as grihastha life is concerned. Whether we follow or not, that's another thing, but the principle is there. So people don't have that culture much, and they also don't have the right. Nowadays, education, sex life is almost like suicide, teaching people to really not to restrain their senses, but rather how to indulge your senses without getting into too much trouble. So, not a very good idea. And education for young kids now, I'm told, not because I don't have any children, but many of those have told me that at 8 years old, they're already being educated about changing sex and different things like that, which is, what can you say? It's symptomatic of our age. So you see there's a famous verse, okay, this is in the purport also, spoken by Humanacharya, and many of you are familiar with this. Yodavari mama cheta Krishna padaravinde nava nava rasadamya nridyatam antamasi tadavari bhatanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikara shushtu nishtivanamcha. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought. Now, this is another misconception. Some devils, not now, but in the beginning, sometimes they took that a little wrongly. There's nothing to do with spitting at the object of your attraction. It's spitting at the thought within one's heart. In other words, you feel disgusted that I'm still, lusting. I mean, if we read the Bible, many of you have read the Bible, I don't know which versions may vary somewhat, but generally speaking, even to think of another man's wife is adultery. Or any other woman other than your wife, basically, for the purpose of enjoying. So they're pretty heavy. The Bible's pretty heavy on this subject matter. I don't know about other texts, other scripts like the Quran. I don't know, I'm not read. But in a Vedic presentation, there are some very heavy statements too, of course. And there are some statements which are perhaps not as dreadfully heavy as that. But this is a practical one. I spit at the thought, at my lips curl with distaste. So it's a form of repentance, self-repentance, which is essential for change. If we don't feel any desire to change, then even if we go through the ropes of, doing this, and that, it's really not likely to have much effect, at least not for a very, very long time. Yamunacharya had formerly been a great king who enjoyed sexual happiness, but since he later engaged himself in the service of the Lord, he enjoyed spiritual bliss and hated to think of sex life. Hating to think of it. It may not be transcendental in one sense, but because he's tasted the service of the Lord, he's not just hating it for other reasons. He doesn't, because it interferes with their service to Krishna. It really does. It's sex life more than anything else, or sex desire more than anything else, can be the greatest impediment on one's spiritual path in terms of practice. Of course, there are heavier things, by the way. Vaishnava Aparad could be seen as much heavier. But as far as practical things that we do, various kinds of things we're involved in, sex life is the most binding and the most distracting of all for one on the spiritual path. If sexual thoughts came to him, we would spit with disgust. So, we feel ourselves very dirty or whatever it may be, but still the desire is there. Very strong. The nature of this age, and we'll read a little bit, I think here, well, just a few more bits and pieces. This is earlier, maybe, I don't know, 320, yet earlier chapter, is it? Or is it the same chapter? Same chapter, yes. But earlier verse. Sex life is the background of material existence. You've already covered this. Here also it is repeated that demons are very fond of sex life. The more one is free from the desires for sex, the more he is promoted to the level of the demigods. The more one is inclined to enjoy sex, the more he is degraded to the level of demoniac life. You see this, that the demigods are not free of it either. There's some, you can say some of that lower nature is there, and it's not 100% pure goodness by any means. but passion is there amongst the demigods, sometimes leading to ignorance, like the Nalakuvar Manigriva is an example. They had to take birth as trees because of misusing their position as demigods. There's another very important section in the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni is to King Prachini Barisha is giving the example, an allegory of Paranjan. Paranjan means the enjoyer in the body, but he's using this to illustrate the situation of King Prachini Barisha, nay, the position of just about everybody in the material world. I'll just read again, we're just taking parts out of the verses and the purports. It's a very similar description to what we've just heard here of that beautiful form of a lady, of a woman. The waist and hips of the woman were very beautiful. She was dressed in a yellow sari with a golden belt. While she walked, her ankle bells rang. She appeared exactly like a denizen of the heavens. This verse, Prabhupada says, expresses the joyfulness of the mind upon seeing a woman with raised hips and breasts, decorated in an attractive sari and bedecked with ornaments. With the end of her sari, the woman was trying to cover her breasts, which were equally round and well placed side by side. Similar thing. She again and again tried to cover them out of shyness while she walked exactly like a great elephant. Therefore, the two breasts, a question mark here in terms of probably most people's I'd say comments on this, but this is actually what they are. And Prabhupada was never afraid to teach the straight truth, even if for the public or for even the devotees sometimes it was very hard to digest. Sometimes to such an extent it was hard to even stay because we're so conditioned and attached. And thus, but Prabhupada wasn't going to, he even said one time that, no, he didn't. No, we didn't say that. Someone else said that. I won't quote that. But anyway, Prabhupada wasn't in the mood of compromising. If we want compromising, then we probably find that somewhere else. But not in Srila Prabhupada's teachings. He's trying to raise us up. He doesn't want to just keep us in this material world of compromise or material enjoyment. He wants us to raise us to the pure platform of pure devotional service. So sometimes we have to be a little clear that although these activities, sex being the most enjoyable, single most activity of a conditioned soul, is nonetheless a cause of suffering. And primarily is a cause of suffering because it blocks our spiritual progress, it diminishes our enthusiasm, it diminishes our strength, and it's displeasing to Krishna unless it's done for the procreation of children, according to religious principles. Well, that may also be entangling, but it's not entangling in the same way. It's the illicit way of gauging one's propensities, you would say. Bhagavad Gita. So the symptoms of raga and dvesha, which is attachment and envy, are described because the two breasts represent attachment and envy. Two very binding features of this material world. Indriyasya indriyasyarte ragadvesho vivasti to tayoro navarsham agachet to yasya paripantino, famous verse in the Gita. Attraction and repulsion for sense objects are felt by embodied beings, but one should not fall under the control of senses and sense objects because they are stumbling blocks on the path of realization. Right? There's another verse, Ragadvesha Muktais too, that one has to be freed of attachment and repulsion. A devotee is neither one nor the other. The materialist is overwhelmed by attraction, by the raga or the attraction of this material world, and the impersonalist by repulsion or neglect or negation of this material world. A devotee is neither one or the other. He's attracted to Krishna. He sees a beautiful woman. He sees everything in this world as meant to be for Krishna's pleasure. He sees everything for that reason. So one is attracted or absorbed like that. He's not disturbed even in the presence of a beautiful woman because he's seeing what is that beauty, what is it? I mean, we hear stories of Bill Mangal Thakur, Tulsidas and others, how they were, infatuated with the beauty of a woman. Well, that very same woman herself woke them up, shook them up, and release them of this illusory attraction for the form of a woman in the case of a man. And in the case of a woman, it would be attraction for a man, although we don't hear much about that because mostly the scriptures were mostly addressed to men as the responsible protectors of society and guides. So, but the same principle applies. I mean, whether a man or woman, to be attracted to the flesh. For a woman, it's less surprising. It's normal. But it's therefore, if her husband's very pure devotee, she's greatly benefited. But if a man's attracted to a sexual contact with other women, then he's really in a degraded condition. Yeah, they're stumbling blocks, but one should not fall into control because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. These representatives of attachment and envy are very much unfavorable for advancement in spiritual life. One should not be attracted by the breasts of young women. The great saint Sankaracharya has described the breasts of women, especially young women, as nothing but a combination of muscles and blood. So one should not be attracted by the illusory energy of raised breasts with nipples. Now there's a science here. I don't know the science particularly, but one senior devotee was telling me that it's difficult now when people are not getting breastfed in many cases. It's very important for the child to have that opportunity, if at all possible. It helps you not to become such a lecherous person, anchoring after what the subject matter of today's class is, for instance. The word nirantaro is significant because although the breasts are situated in different locations, the action is the same. We should not make any distinction between attachment and envy. They're just basically the same problem, different aspects. As described in Bhagavad Gita, they're both products of Rajagun, Kama, Aisha, famous verse. When Arjuna asked Krishna, why is it that a man is forced to act against his own nature? So Krishna says, Kama, Esha, Kora, Esha, Rajagun, Samumbhava, Mahashanam, Papmabhagini, Varanam. They're all devouring sinful enemies of the world, this lust, which drives a man to act against his higher nature, we could say, or his intellectual understanding. Overwhelmed. The word niguhantim, trying to cover, indicates that even if one is tainted by kama, krodha, lobha, etc., they can be transfigured by Krishna consciousness. In other words, one can utilize kama, lust, for serving Krishna. Being impelled by lust, an ordinary worker will work hard day and night. Similarly, a devotee can work hard day and night to satisfy Krishna. So the karmi may be working for money, or maybe for his family or something, or to enjoy sex life or something, whatever, some materialistic pursuit. A devotee can work with the same drive, but working to please Krishna, not to please himself or others. A devotee can work hard day and night to satisfy Krishna, just as karmas are working hard to satisfy kama and krodha. A devotee should work in the same way to satisfy Krishna. Similarly, krodha, anger, can also be used in the service of Krishna when it is applied to the non-devotee demons. Hanumanji applied his anger in this way. He was a great devotee of Lord Ramchandra, and he utilized his anger to set fire to the kingdom of Ravana, a non-devotee demon. Ravana was a typical example of someone who fits this demoniac category. He just saw every woman, a beautiful woman that is, was meant for his pleasure. He considered him, in other words, he's basically considering himself the supreme. And everything that exists is meant for his enjoyment. This kama can be utilized to satisfy Krishna, and krodha can be utilized to punish the demons. So, of course, we have to say, as we heard earlier on, unfortunately, there's a little demon in all of us. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, one time when he was asked this question, should we use anger against those who are inimical to Krishna? And he said, yes, but first we have to see who's most inimical. When I look at my own heart, I find no one more inimical than me. So to whom should I use anger? So, we've got to look at ourselves. Many of these directives here are really for our own self-analysis, our own self-reflection, to just look at our own consciousness, where we're at, and try to realize that, I'm still a little way to go. Next verse, Paranjan the hero, this is a nice, lovely verse. Paranjan the hero, every man likes to think himself the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and smiling face of the very beautiful girl, and was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lusty desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Puranjan, although a hero could not refrain from addressing her. Purport by Prabhupada. Every living entity is a hero in two ways. When he is a victim of the illusory energy, he works as a great hero in the material world, as a great leader, politician, businessman, industrialist, etc., and his heroic activities contribute to the material advancement of civilization. One can also become a hero by being master of the senses, a Goswami. Material activities are false heroic activities, whereas restraining the senses from material engagement is great heroism. However great a hero may be in the material world, he can be immediately conquered by the lumps of flesh and blood known as the breasts of a woman. In the history of material activities, there are many examples like the Roman hero Antony, who became captivated by the beauty of Cleopatra. Similarly, a great hero in India named Baji Rao became a victim of a woman during the time he was involved in Maharashtrian politics, and he was defeated. From history, we understand that formerly politicians used to employ beautiful girls who were trained as Vishakanya. These girls had poison injected into their bodies from the beginning of their lives, so that in due course of time they would become so immune to the poison and so poisonous themselves that simply by kissing a person they could kill him. This is an example of how it works in the material world. We get captivated and we want to enjoy that material world, and then we get smashed or get some reaction is there, very much so. Just like Cleopatra, I mean, I heard, and maybe you're wrong, but I heard that she actually gave up her life. And imagine the pain and the misery of these relationships can create when, the object of your love gives up her life for whatever reason. So these poisonous girls, the Vishakanyas, were employed like that. So, but basically the fifth form, the verse is talking about the attraction of women. We'll stick to that. Obviously looking at it from a male's point of view, but the principle applies to all. That attraction is just, what can you say, is Maya. It's the nature of this material world. Everyone's captivated up to Narayana Rishi with this attraction, even though Brahma was attracted initially to his own daughter Vak. And of course, it's a little different in the sense of Lord Shiva. He was attracted to more Mohini Murti, because Mohini Murti is also an expansion of Krishna, but still, the principle was there, was attracted to that beautiful form, not knowing it was Krishna. One who can keep. Every living entity has the freedom to be attracted by material nature, or to stand as a hero and resist the attraction. It is simply a question of the living entities being attracted or not being attracted. There is no question of his being forced to come into contact with material energy. One who can keep himself steady and resist the attraction of material nature is certainly a hero and deserves to be called a Goswami. Unless one is master of the senses, he cannot be called a Goswami. The living entity can take one or two positions in this world, one of two. He may become a servant of the senses, or he may become master of them. By becoming a servant of the senses, one becomes a great material hero, and by becoming master of the senses, he becomes a Goswami or spiritual hero. So we make up our mind, a realization what type of hero one wants to be. I've all experienced the material hero and still probably do, but anyone can understand that this is a life of struggle, a life of stress, a life of distress, and so on and so forth. And finally, a life of death. The generative energy, which when we are loose, dissipates and makes us unclean. Now, this is an interesting quote from Thoreau, Ralph Emerson Thoreau, if I'm not mistaken. No, Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau. He was a U.S. philosopher and author in the 19th century. And it's quite well quoted amongst the Buddha. I think even the Bhagavad Gita, his name is mentioned in the introduction or the preface or something like that. Or there's a quote of his statement on regards to the Bhagavad Gita. So there's another one. The generative energy, which when we are loose, dissipates and makes us unclean. When we are continent, That means when when we're not loose, when we withhold that energy, that semen, and it can invigorate and inspire us. He also realized that life, energy, strength is in the ojas, in the semen. Chastity is the flowering of man, and what are called genius, heroism, holiness, and the like are but various fruits which succeeded. So there's a quote from Henry David Thoreau, quite a realized person, I guess, American philosopher. Now, another quote. This is, so what is it? And what is it? Why is it? What is it? So this is what it is. This is due to previous samskaras, why we have so many desires within our hearts. Impressions in the subconscious, the samskaras. Every activity, thought, and sensual experience of the conditioned soul produces a samskara, or an impression. Each samskara becomes added to a stockpile of mental impressions that is not vanquished even at death. Sexual acts or even thoughts of sex produce particularly strong samskaras. These samskaras influence the disposition, vritti, of a person and give him rise to innumerable vasanas, or material desires. So this is how it works. Samskaras are these impressions on our consciousness. They tendency then for us to see the world in a certain way, move in a certain way, act in a certain way in relationship to the material world, and then all kinds by contemplating the objects of the senses, one becomes attached, and such attachment, lust develops, and lust, anger develops. Famous verse in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So a third chapter, what chapter? No, it's not the second. Anyway, from the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, second chapter, text 62 or something. And here's an interesting one. Ayurvedic treatment, many of you have probably come across Ayurvedic treatment, maybe you've taken it. We all know that it doesn't work immediately and it doesn't completely obliterate the problem, but it gradually diminishes it so that the disease may not not come back again. The cure will be complete. So similarly, the cure for this lusty disease, it may not be overnight, it may not be immediate, but it has to be seen over a period of time. Unless one is fully Krishna conscious, this lusty desire cannot be checked. It is not possible. That is tapasya. That voluntarily accepts some inconvenience. Tapasa brahmacharyena. Tapasya means first brahmacharya, how to avoid sex desire. That is first step. Not the modern education, how to almost facilitate your sex desire in many cases. How to avoid. That is first step. Where is that tapasya? It's very difficult to do this tapasya. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was given Harinam. If you chant Hare Krishna mantra regularly, you will be cured. Otherwise, regular tapasya is almost impossible nowadays. Almost impossible. So again, Lord Chaitanya has given us Harinam, Harinam. We have to chant Hare Krishna, what Prabhupada says, not just mechanically, but really calling out to Krishna for help. Not just mechanical. We may mechanically chant our rounds, but that doesn't have much of an effect. It's something, but not much. If we want the change of heart, then we have to, Krishna alone can cause that change of heart. We have to call out to him, almost desperate, calling his name. Oh. You can read the next one, I'm not going to read it. The Vedanta Sutra refers to anavriti shabdat, liberation by sound. Chanting loudly and clearly greatly helps in overcoming lust. So, you can find a space, a place to chant loudly and clearly. But if we're not chanting the mantra properly, then the mantra will not have the proper effect. We have to pronounce all 16 words. We have to put our priorities together. Chanting 16 rounds attentively, Kindvada Nudinam, is a recommended method. Hearing about Krishna's pastimes, another one, with the gopis is specifically recommended to vanquish lusty desires in the heart. We hear this quite often. We hear the counter of it sometimes, but here Prabhupada himself counters it. However, if you become more lusty by seeing or hearing the pastimes of Krishna with Radharani, that means you are not fit. Stop it. Don't be foolish. So that's one thing. Is for those who are specifically a little advanced in Krishna consciousness, this meditation or absorption in the lila of Krishna with the gopis is very beneficial. But for those who are not, it can actually be the opposite. According to Sri Sridhar Swami, by meditation on the Supreme Lord, one can overcome lust and other mental disturbances. More specifically, the Bhagavatam states that sex desire can be overcome by meditation on Krishna's eyebrows. This can be very effective. Interesting. Krishna's eyebrows. Better than meditating on sex is meditating on the consequences. If we're going to analyze a thing rather than meditating on this, think about the consequences of sex, which some have been mentioned already, besides potential disease and so on and so forth. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, asankalpa jayat kamam, by making plans with determination, sankalpa, one should give up lusty desires for sense gratification. Asankalpa can be translated as by not making plans for sex, by not thinking about it, by not visualizing it, by not daydreaming about it. In his commentary, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur suggests Bhogartha Buddhi Vajana is a symptom of a sankalpa. Excuse me. It's very hot here. It's nearly 40 degrees right now, and we didn't sleep much last night as usual, and we're very tired in the seat. I'll try to keep going. A sankalpa means that even if lust arises from remembrance of seeing of a woman, a person is determined not to think, this woman is to be enjoyed by me. Thus he conquers lust. One technique to control the mind is to ignore it. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, we read that, or spoke that verse, that enter like river into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the one who strives to satisfy these desires. By tolerance alone, one can conquer desires and avarice. One should not be lazy in the matter of understanding the philosophical conclusions of devotional service, for such discussions strengthen the mind. Thus one's mind becomes attached to Sri Krishna. Sometimes it's recommended we hear the pastimes of Krishna, but particularly is mentioned the killing of Sankatruda. The Sankatruda demon who tried to steal away the gopas. Hearing about the death of that particular demon is very beneficial for overcoming sex desire. Here's a verse which Prabhupada has given us, and Bhagavatam has given us. This is 6.8.17. May Sanat Kumar protect me from lusty desires. Prabhupada writes in the purport, lusty desires are very strong in everyone, and they are the greatest impediment to the discharge of devotional service. Therefore, those who are very much influenced by lusty desires are advised to take shelter of Sanat Kumar, the great brahmachari devotee. Interesting. Sometimes we're advised to take shelter of Haridas Thakur. Prabhupada says that by around, especially in front of the Tulsi tree, and taking and following the path of Haridas Thakur, one may be protected from this lusty desire. Another one. O my Lord, this is Chaitanya Charitam. O my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted order of lusty desires. Although I have rendered them so much service, they have not shown any mercy to me. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I even desired to give them up. A typical situation. O my Lord, head of the Yadu dynasty, recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened, and now I am giving them up. Due to transcendental intelligence, I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of unwanted orders of these desires, and I now come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. I missed that bit. Another quote from Prabhupada. Our most difficult position is sex. Krishna, Maya, has given such a propensity, sex, that will create disturbance. Even though you are rigid and vowed and you are doing nicely. Sometimes, especially at night, you are disturbed. Therefore, Suruto, Krishna is the most expert in this conjugal love. Therefore, we have to admit, surrender to Krishna, Suruto Pangor. We are very much feeble and very slow, and so far as our sex impulse is concerned. Here it is especially mentioned, Madha Mohan. Sex impulse is called Cupid. Madana, if we become staunch devotees of Krishna, these material sex impulses will vanish. Because even Cupid becomes attracted by Krishna. We are attracted by Cupid, but Cupid is attracted by Krishna, therefore Krishna is Madhamohan. That is the only remedy. Yadavadi Namateta Krishna Padara Vinde. If you stick to the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna, please save me. Then this material thing, sex agitation, will not disturb him. This is the only way, therefore it is said, Madhana Moham. One, even Madhana is attracted by Krishna. I have no power to stop them. Only Lord Krishna. Our spiritual life is hampered very strongly by this sex impulse, but it is material, so we try to tolerate. By my previous shameful life, my heart is polluted with many illusory attachments. Personally, I have no power to stop them. Only Lord Krishna within my heart can remove such inauspicious contamination. But whether the Lord removes such, this is a very important statement. It's in the 11th canto. It's not verse 25. I think it's 27, 28. That's a wrong reference. Only Lord Krishna within my heart can remove such inauspicious contaminations. But whether the Lord removes such attachment immediately or lets me go on being afflicted by them, I will never give up my devotional service to Him, even if the Lord places millions of obstacles in my path, and even if, because of my offenses, I go to hell. I will never for a moment stop serving Lord Krishna. So that's 11th canto, very important verse. That's a commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti, that statement, by the way, in the commentary of the 11th canto. Here's another nice statement. The words Jata Shraddha Matkatasu are most significant here. By faithful hearing, and this is really important, the word faithful, having faith in the holy name. We chant, and somehow I could say we have faith in the mechanics and faith in the sadhana in one sense of doing it. We don't necessarily have faith in the holy name, but real faith in the holy name. If I just take shelter of the holy name, everything can be achieved. Taking shelter of the holy name, Shraddha, deep faith. By faithful hearing, that's the price, is one's faith for receiving the pure name. By faithful hearing of the mercy and glories of the Lord, one will gradually be free from all material desire and clearly see at every moment the utter frustration of sense gratification. Chanting the glories of the Lord with firm faith and conviction is a tremendously powerful spiritual process that enables one to give up all material association. Thus, a sincere devotee who chants and hears the glories of Sri Krishna should not be discouraged by the remnants of material desires within the heart. He should faithfully wait for the devotional process to naturally purify the heart of all contamination. So again, comment. Desires cannot be overcome unless they are purified. We have to purify. You can't just, no, I'm not going to do it. Our consciousness has to become purified by the practice of devotional service, particularly Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Prayana Agamdan Vansi Krsna Niharaniva Bhaskara. And this 6th canto verse. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions. With no possibility, they will revive. It's like we will have this experience. We may withdraw our senses for some time. There's a famous Buddhist story, isn't there? 2 Buddhists crossing the river, and one lady was wanting to cross, but the water was too deep and was too strong for her. She begged these monks if they could please carry her across. She had some important business to do. One of the monks said, "No way, I'm a monk. You're a woman, I can't touch you." The other said, "Okay, hop on." So they both crossed the river, one with a lady on his back, the other without. They got to the other side. The lady, after a while, got off the back, dusted herself down, maybe had a bath or something, and she was away. And after, then started to walk away, the two monks. And after some time, after an hour or so, one of the monks was still couldn't get over the fact that the other monk carried this lady across the river. He said, I just don't understand. How did you let that lady touch you? And how did you cross the river carrying on your shoulders? This is really not the business of a monk. And he said, well, I carried her for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You've been carrying her now for hours in your mind. So it's not just a physical thing, it's the internals also. You can restrict oneself, but the mind, Krishna says, a pretender and a fool. We restrict ourselves, but in the mind we're absorbed in it. So that also is something others may not see, but Krishna can see. The only remedy, Prabhupada said, is Krishna consciousness. Only a rare person who has adopted complete, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility they will revive. He can do this by discharging devotional service just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Famous words. Absorption in devotional service is no other way. Idle mind is devil's workshop. There is no other solution. We have to apply ourselves to Krishna consciousness very seriously. And when Krishna sees our sincerity, he will bless us, and gradually all these dirty things will go away. I don't think there's many examples of Prabhupada getting into all of these, but nowadays we have all these techniques or some, I don't know, this thing and that thing to try to conquer over these things. But Prabhupada's answer was, I mean, there were some aids. He recommended getting married. We've already mentioned quite a few special things, but they're all very Krishna conscious things. Very Krishna conscious. And that was the secret, to be Krishna conscious. There was no other solution. When Krishna sees our sincerity, he will bless us. Gradually all these dirty things will go away. It is only by the grace of the Supreme Lord that one can be protected from the allurement of lusty material desires. Only, there's no other way. The Lord gives protection to devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental loving service. Preaching Krishna consciousness, whatever activity it is, but especially preaching Krishna consciousness is, Prabhupada says, the best way to overcome the tendency for the mind to dwell on material objects, thinking how I can spread this mission. We can never divorce this from the mercy of Lord Nityananda, our spiritual master, and all the devotees in line up to Lord Nityananda. But he's the most merciful, Lord Nityananda, the deliverer of the most form. Regarding your enemy, Prabhupada says, Mr. Lust, I have noted the difficulties. But we should always remember that Krishna is stronger than any demon. And Mr. Lust, or his father, or his grandfather, no one can do anything provided we take shelter of Krishna very tightly. Now, so for your personal matters concerned, you're a brahmachari, you can marry at any time. And in New York, all the nice girls they are actually very suitable for our students. This is a whole statement in the beginning. And I encourage that all brahmacharis may be very responsible and marry one of the girls. That was the different things at other places, but here he's saying they should all marry one of the girls. Because generally the girls desire a good husband and a good home, children. That is a natural propensity. And Prabhupada says it's not unnatural that somebody, young person specifically, have lusty desires. There's nothing unnatural. Everyone's got it. It's not the end of the world. So we want to show some ideal householders also. But the proposal that marriage will solve the question of lust is not practical. Neither wife should be accepted as a machine for satisfying lust. The marriage tie should be taken as very sacred. One who marries for subduing lust is mistaken, because lust cannot be satisfied simply by indulging in sense gratification. Some yogis, gurus, or whatever they call themselves, have this idea that you have to indulge in it so much that you burn it out. It doesn't work like that. Bhagavad Gita says it's blazing fire. The more you feed it, the more it burns, like a raging fire. The marriage tie should be here. It's compared with that extinguishing the fire with a large amount of petrol or ghee. You put it on, it goes out immediately, but then it blazes up. For the time being, the fire may appear to be extinguished by pouring a large quantity of petrol, but the petrol itself is so dangerous. Any time it may burst into flame. So to subdue lust is a different process. Then you have to take to deity worship. I am sending here with one copy of the process of deity worship. Krishna, Madam Mohan, you have already stated in your letter, it's very nice that you would much prefer to channel all your desires to Krishna. And you ask me how it is possible when enveloped in Maya, seeing only material forms. You have also written to say that if you can see the absolute beauty which is all attractive, then you could not help but be attracted and would scorn mundane beauty. A beautiful story of Ramanujacharya when he was walking with his followers, and he said about Danadhar, he was a famous wrestler in Sri Rangam, was infatuated by his beautiful girlfriend. She was very beautiful. He was very rich, #1 wrestler, famous man. He had a beautiful girlfriend because he was strong, handsome, muscular, and so on. All the features that most lusty girls look for. So he was captivated by his girlfriend. And when Ramanuja saw that, and he never even noticed Ramanuja passing by, they were having kirtan, he never even batted an eyelid, he never flicked an eye. He was so captivated with his girl. So Ramanuja sent one of his followers over who asked Danadhar, shook him up, woke him, kind of brought him back to the where we are in this world, so to speak. So, well, what's going on here? Don't you know Ramanujacharya is passing by and you're not even recognizing in any way? A little like Nalakavara Manigriva. So he said, really? Whoa. What? No. Why are you not? Why are you like you are? Why are you not captivated? He said, my girlfriend. What is it about your girlfriend? Ramanuja then came on the scene and said, why are you so attracted? He said, her eyes are irresistible. So Ramanujacharya said, if I can show you eyes which are more attractive than hers, what will you do? And he said, well, maybe I'll become more attracted to those eyes. So then Ramanujacharya said, come tonight, this evening at 6:30 to the temple gate. I will be there and I will show you something. So he did. He came there and met Ramanuja. Ramanuja took him into the inner sanctum. No electric lights, only ghee lamps. So when the arti was being offered, the lamp was being offered, the Lord's beautiful form of Sri Ranganath, his eyes, everything was illuminated by the beautiful lights and the ghee lamp, and his eyes, lotus-like eyes, irresistibly beautiful, and right at the front, because Ramanuja being the chariot took Danadadas right to the front. Danadadas' heart changed on the spot. He became captivated by Lord Ranganath. And he didn't give up his girlfriend. In fact, she also became captivated. They got married and they became great devotees of Ramanujacharya. Where are we? This is actually the remedy to become attracted to the beauty of the deity. So you may make immediately to the archon, deity worship. Kirtanananda Maharaj has also begun. In Vrindavan, Pradyumna knows how he is doing. And similarly, New York Brahmana is also engaged. And the process is a little difficult in the beginning, but when habituated, it is not difficult. So apart from the marriage proposal, you may immediately begin deity worship. I'm sending here with one copy of the process of deity worship and compiled by Brahmananda that will help you and Pradyumna also. And Pradyumna also knows. So combined together, you immediately begin deity worship as Kirtanananda and Brahmananda are doing. And I'm sure this process, helped by your regular chanting, will kill Mr. Lust. And that was a 68. A lot of these are early letters, huh? And we've already done that. So I'm going to finish at that point, and we'll open up if there's any questions from, if anyone's left online. Maybe no one's there anymore. Only Sahadev left. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
If anyone would like
Right, there are still devotees here, yes.
Huh?
There are still quite a number of devotees here.
Some are still tolerating. It's not a very, it's a subject matter which is not necessarily so much rasa or exciting in one sense. It's challenging. It's, wow, what am I going to do with this? Wow, boy, I'm so lusty. I'm chanting Hare Krishna. I'm still so lusty. What do I do? Well, you heard just now, even if Krishna, in fact, the wording is maybe not quite so strong, which I say, even if these desires are obliterated or increased, whatever they are, Krishna Chakravarti Thakur said, if Krishna obliterates them or whatever reason they increase, I will never give up my devotional service, that determination. Even if I go to hell, I will still carry on with my devotional services. So that determination, because it's not so easy to be determined when we have, say, physical problems of this kind. From Bhagavad Gita, that determination for those who are not so determined, those who are not acting so piously in this life and the next, and so on and so forth, eradicated their sinful reactions. It's hard for that to come. But by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan, the mercy of devotees, even if we have those problems, which everyone does subtly or grossly, one can still carry on, engage in devotional service. And gradually, by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, that we'll start to shake off that body as Lord Brahma threw that body off in due course of time. Those samskaras which form this state of inclinations and so on. Any questions?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. This, like you said, it's a challenging subject matter, but it is challenging, and it is also very necessary for us to hear and to learn the strategies.
Particularly said they should discuss this subject matter regularly. Of course, everyone can discuss it. Now,
Yes.
the discussion may take a different form. If
Yeah.
you're in a body, it may take a slightly different form. But the principle is the same. We all want to become Krishna conscious, man, woman, grihastha, brahmachari, whatever we are.
Yeah.
And even if someone's gay, the principle is still the same. How to become Krishna conscious? It's not that nobody is disqualified, nobody. But it's just this little, it's a little difficult. I mean, having a tooth extracted is not comfortable, but you may have to have it done sometimes. So it takes time. What can you say? It doesn't happen. Sorry.
Parikit Karyate, you have something to ask or to share? Please, you may unmute.
You can either ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I had a question.
Okay.
Who's speaking?
Shrimad Prabhu, you have something to ask?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my most respectful and humble obeisances. Guru Maharaj, I had a question to ask. Does the mind also play a role in increasing our lust?
Who's speaking?
Parikshit here, Guru Maharaj.
Oh, Parikshit. Hare Krishna, Parikshit.
Guru Maharaj, my question is, does the mind also...
But I'm not Sukadeva Goswami. You have to go to a really qualified... I'm like one of the lowest of the low here, We hope that Sukadeva will come on the scene and answer all your questions. Continue.
Guru Maharaj, I wanted to ask, does the mind also play a role in increasing lust?
Pardon?
Parikshit, could you please repeat your question?
Slowly.
Gone
blank.
Maharaj, if you
No.
does
the mind also play a role in increasing lust?
Lust? I heard the word lust. What was the other word?
He was asking something might be increasing lust, but I didn't get what he was saying.
Sometimes, I don't know if that's the question, or is there a follow-on to that point, or is it just a comment, or is it expected to answer from that, or is there more to it?
No, I think it's a question directed to your holiness, but I didn't get part of the question.
Yeah, I didn't either. Are you able to write it or something so we can see it in written form? Maybe you can write it in the chats.
Yes, Maharaj. Just give me a second.
Yeah, do that. Any other questions in the meantime?
Yes, can I go on?
Yes, go ahead, Srimad Prabhu.
Who's this?
Jai.
Varaha Acharya. Maharaj, may you take down the screen sharing?
I can't see. Who's speaking?
Okay, let me
Uh,
do that.
okay, 1 minute. Okay, I think
What's
Hare
happening?
Krishna.
Haribol.
Yes, go ahead.
Dandava Pranam Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Licenses? Who's
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
ah,
All glories to your holiness.
Acharya? You're the Acharya Prabhu. Come on. You know all the
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Uh, yes, thank you very much. I think you are the only one. You are fit to give this kind of class. I mean, on this topic, because you are so compassionate and you are also, I mean, being in the Sannyasi ashram, and you can address this very nicely. So thank you very much. I have a question. Mm, I'm just thinking while listening to all this and knowing how much people criticize the fact that this type of subject had made it difficult for our Grihastha ashram to develop because people kind of shy away, or maybe why they are in the Grihastha ashram, they are feeling guilty, etc., etc. So my question is, the scripture says the nature of the soul is that it's ananda biasa. Ananda is pleasure seeking.
Mm,
The soul is by nature,
mm.
ananda maya biasa, is by nature pleasure seeking. And now, um, and the scripture also says that the highest material pleasure is sex pleasure. So how do we and then there is all these statements about how sex can be very abominable and etc., and entangling one. But then the nature of the soul is that is pleasure seeking, and the
Yeah,
highest material pleasure is sex.
yeah.
So how do we relate both?
How do you let go of it? I mean, that's kind of like more or less, you could say, one of the foundational understandings of Bhagavad Gita or spiritual life is you can't just let go of something. And, there are ways of regulating, as we heard earlier, the Varnashram, married life. Even within married life, as you mentioned, it's not easy. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I know most grihastas, it's not like they're only having sex for children. Maybe some are, I don't know, but many aren't. It's subject matter which isn't highly talked in open about. Of course, it's not. These are very confidential, personal things, but some understanding should be there, not that we just turn a blind eye to all these things, and they should be discussed amongst grihastas to help each other healthily. It can be healthy, we don't grihastas breaking up all the time and going depressed and this, that, and the other. But at the same time, some healthy discussion how to progress. Now, and again, it's not just a feeling of guilt. It's not just a feeling of force. It's not some kind of tapasya that you have to undergo exactly. It's Prabhupada, I don't see, in most cases at least, Prabhupada just focuses on cultivating Krishna consciousness, particularly the holy name, and taking shelter with faith in the holy name. The name can help us. We just keep chanting with faith, not that we're chanting to get free of the reactions from whatever our shortcomings may be. It's not just grihastas, it's brahmacharis. I mean, it could be anyone. I mean, let's face it, different cultures. Indian culture is probably not such a big problem, but it's becoming one. Some Indian devotees are with us today. I spoke to many an Indian devotee who has problems, for instance, with masturbation and this and that. It's a Kali Yuga. It's very difficult to overcome. We're surrounded with it. Krishna knows all these things. We make a sincere endeavor and be honest in the right circumstances, revealing one's heart in the right circumstances. Not you have to put it on social media, but in the right circumstances with those you can trust or persons who are a little bit more mature in life, whatever, and be humble. And Krishna sees your attitude like that, So what do we do with it? We carry on. We have to find a way of carrying on in our devotional lives. Sometimes these things drag on. They're like for many lifetimes. It's not easy to shake off this. And you're surrounded with it. Let's face it, the world outside there is designed to keep us infatuated with the material sense objects, be it the sex desire or some other enjoying factor. We're all looking for pleasure in food, we're looking for pleasure in sex, we're looking for pleasure in sport, in music, in nature's arrangements, everything you can think of in name and fame. There's no end of Maya's constantly giving us this kind of like, here, take this. And it looks very nice, and we think we're going to get that bliss from contacting it, and eventually we don't get it. Then we go somewhere else. We're fraught, like they say, we're fish out of water. We can't possibly find a satisfaction which a fish wants out of the water. So, but the propensity to enjoy, what is that enjoyment? That enjoyment in the material world is to enjoy me, but the real enjoyment of devotional service is to see Radha and Krishna, as Prabhupada said, to see Radha and Krishna happy. This is where, and then in the spiritual world, the enjoyment in this world is basically self-centered. It may appear to be for others, but it's only measured according to how I feel. But in the spiritual world, the devotees, we see them. They're in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Prabhupada in his commentary on 240, whatever it is, Yatmasayatmika here. I don't mind going to hell or heaven. The instruction of my spiritual master, all that matters to me. They just want to please the Lord and his devotees. It's not about what I feel. But in the illusory state, we're thinking this propensity is all about how I feel. In the spiritual world is how Radha and Krishna feel. Now, the beauty of the spiritual life is that they are the supreme enjoyers. We're meant to be the prakriti. They're the enjoyers, we're the enjoyed. They're the seers, we're the seeing. They're the proprietors, we're that which is, possessed. It's like we got it the wrong way around in the material world, you could say, from the spiritual perspective. But when that transformation does take place, is evoked, of course, generally by association of those who are actually lovers of the Lord. And that's good fortune. So when that takes place, and one is able to let go of the motivation of how I feel or pleasing myself, and think how to please my spiritual master, how to please Krishna, when the motivation becomes more and more in that direction, then one feels a different type of pleasure. It's like the pleasure of the servant to the king. Sometimes probably uses the example that the servant almost enjoys. He watches the same dances, he sees the same entertainment, he's eating the same food, he's living in the same place almost. He's getting almost the same, qualitatively speaking, pleasure as the boss, as the king. So the devotee in that mood of self-sacrifice in that sense, or just living for the sake of Krishna's pleasure, gets the highest pleasure. He gets the highest pleasure. He shares entirely in the most highest form of ecstasy or pleasure. And that's the real business of Anandamaya Bisat, this nature of Satchidananda, the soul, to experience unending happiness, can only be experienced at that level. It cannot be experienced in this. It's meant to frustrate us. If it wasn't frustrating in this world, we have no inclination to give it up. There's meant to be frustration. It's part of the material's constitution, and it has a positive purpose. Unfortunately, without good association or knowledge, the living entity doesn't see it like that. He sees it as a battle against the elements to try to change that and try to adjust the world around him to satisfy my own agenda or our own agendas. But it never works. It's just the nature of this world. You try harder and harder, and it just never happens. We're treading water all the time. It's like a wedding party, rowing, 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 but the anchor's in the ground. We never get there. The donkey with a carrot on its stick in front of its nose, it never reaches it. That's the nature of the material world until we wake up and realize the fallacy of trying to, be the enjoyer in this world. We are the enjoyer in one sense, but in this world, it's a fallacy to think that we can fulfill that propensity separate from Krishna. It's a fallacy. So unless that pleasure is coming in relationship with Krishna, then definitely we're going to look elsewhere. No doubt about that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. There's another part, a follow up,
Well,
a
what
follow
about
up.
you got? I'll bet you got a lot of follow-ups there. A lot of follow-ups to sleep. Is Parikshit's question on the chat? I don't see anything.
Parikshit said something in the chat. He is trying to find out from Your Holiness if the mind also plays a role in increasing our lusty desires.
The mind has nothing to do with it, is it? Nothing at all. And what the mind got to? Well, actually, Prabhupada said that one time. So what's the mind got to do with it? But yes, well, again, you see, this is interesting. All of this, attraction, repulsion on the subtle plane, which may manifest into practical action, is not the soul. We're seeing this going on, and we're being captivated by it and going along that path of whatever mental and physical journey. But it's not us. So that yes, the mind is central. I mean, the mind is at the heart, you could say, in a sense, because it starts there. Contemplating the objects of the senses, lust develops. So, of course, the mind is right there. So that's why we try to purify our mind. The whole devotional process can be seen from that angle. It's all about purifying our consciousness. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nivarpanam. By carefully chanting is amazing. I mean, everyone's experienced that. When you really, sometimes you get those little glimpses when you really have that chance to really hear the holy name. You focus on the holy name and just let go of everything else. And the name does everything. And, it just is amazing. Or Krishna Katha, if you absorb yourself in Krishna Katha. But especially the holy name is a Yuga Dharma. So when we particularly hear the holy name, and just let her have faith in the holy name. Don't try to use the holy name as an instrument for, overcoming things or fulfilling things. Just take shelter. And that's where Prabhupada said, what's the mind got to do with it? Just hear the holy name, Prabhupada said. Just hear the holy name. So in that sense, yes, the mind has a lot to do with it. But we just try to allow the holy name to occupy our subtle, our mind or our subtle body. Just try to let it in. It's your time with, and it's Krishna who purifies. We can't do it on ourselves. We can't conquer lust. No one can. No one can conquer lust. No one. Very powerful. I mean, only Krishna can conquer lust. Everyone's inflicted by lust. Cupid. Everybody, right up to the topmost. But only one who's completely taken shelter of Krishna is protected, of course, but it's Krishna who's protecting. It's not that we're protecting. Krishna's protecting. He's lust. Lust is he's Madhamohan. He's the conqueror over Madana. Madana's controlled by Krishna. Krishna's controlled by Radharani. Radharani is the personification of devotion and compassion. So if we take up devotional service in that spirit, trying to assist Radharani in her mission to bring pleasure to Krishna, then Krishna is very pleased. And why should he push us, get out of here, fall back in Maya? We may have to go through some tests sometimes because we have the wrong attitude. But Krishna's desire ultimately is that we come without any baggage, without any material desire, with a clean slate, with a purified heart. And his presence, his pavitram, he purifies our mind when we sincerely, faithfully, as the song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur described, we should faithfully chant the holy name with faith. That's the price of Krishna consciousness, the faith in chanting the holy name. Yastyadeva parabhakti tadeveta tago tashyataya tatakatapakashante Mahatmana, one who has this implicit faith in the spiritual master and Krishna. Everything's revealed. We have to have this faith in the holy name, which means the holy name will do everything. It will cleanse our heart of all these. It seems impossible to get free of lust. It seems impossible. You get a little bit of, well, I'm there, and then next day, boom, we're off again. We lost it again. Or greed, or anger, or envy. Any of these characteristics, which for so long have been our associates in our subtle body or our minds, our attitudes, our approach, our concepts, our perception. It's an impossible task for the living entity. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, it is impossible for the jiva to single-handedly overcome these various kinds of illusions or these various kinds of distractions. It's only possible by the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, one has to cry fervently for the Lord's mercy. There's no other means of extirpation from the bondage of lust, greed, anger, envy, illusion, madness, and so on. There's no other way. We can try doing what we do, what we've done, what we've been asked to do, and trying to do everything as well as we can, but ultimately it depends on the mercy of Krishna. So take shelter of that mercy, Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Anything else?
My second question, Maharaj.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
very much. Actually, while you're speaking, I remembered what my Guru Maharaj said on this once I asked him a question about that. And he said, as long as you're in this material body, there's no question of, giving up sex desire. As long as you're in this material body, sex desire will always be there because this body means, desires and lust. So anyway, thank you very much. But then my second question is,
Add on to that, by the way, is a very wonderful thing, is that understanding that as long as one's in mature world, and Prabhupada says, as long as you have a mature body, the desires will come. But what you do when the desires come is what counts. It's not so much whether desires are coming or not coming. It's how you react to their presence. That's a secret. So if that understanding a helpless condition, and we turn to Krishna in that situation, then in one sense, those desires, although they may appear to be distractions and repulsive, if we look at it from one angle, can in fact be a trigger for us really taking shelter of Krishna. Because we have no other choice. You have a choice, but then if you want to get free of them, there's no other choice. Only Krishna can release us from the attraction. It's not a matter of the desire being there, it's our attraction for them. And so we have to replace that with another, attraction, another activity. If we completely absorb ourselves in devotional service, there's not much room, and Prabhupada talked about that a lot, keeping fully engaged in devotional service. And that's another reason why Prabhupada, or the Bhagavatam says that these topics of analyzing the philosophy, discussing amongst ourselves are very important because it can invigorate the mind so that, when you lie down at night, as Prabhupada said, at night especially, these problems come up at night, it's more than day, is that then you can think of Krishna or his pastimes or some verse or some philosophical point or whatever it may be. So our mind becomes a little bit more absorbed in Krishna consciousness rather than floating into a God knows what realm, some mundane cloud somewhere. So trying to occupy ourselves like that. Sorry, second one.
yes, Maharaj, thank you very much. This is a serious issue. This is not, the devotional and spiritual philosophical aspect is very, it pacifies our mind. But then there is an issue. The issue of having prostate cancer. And prostate cancer comes up often as man start, getting older from 40 years old or above. And scientific research that is coming out every day now is that the only way you can reduce the risk of prostate cancer is to have sex many times. Now, how do we respond to that? We, the devotees, that we know and we say that, reducing sex desire is the only way of spiritual advancement. And that there's this problem of prostate cancer, which is a challenge for people getting older. And then the scientific research is saying that the only way you can reduce that risk is having more sex. And this is on the net every day now. So how do we respond to that?
That sounds interesting. I've not heard that before, but it sounds very interesting. How do we respond to that? Is there evidence for that? I don't know.
Yeah, they claim that the research is from Harvard University, from all these big universities coming out with this.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you want to experiment and find out, or what?
Yeah, Maharaj, there are lots of, I wouldn't say so-called, but there are lots of scientific research speaking like this online. So
I don't know if you can
I think
believe it.
sorry, Maharaj, go ahead.
Breaking up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was saying that there are lots of scientific statements like that all over. And I believe that is why Srila Prabhupada wanted his disciples and devotees, I mean, generation after generation, to also become scientists and try to speak with these material scientists so that we can also present scientific understanding of whatever they are saying. But Prabhuji's question is because oftentimes people in general tend to follow what quote unquote has been scientifically, clinically approved. People tend to follow that. So his question, which I think is very important for us all as devotees, is how do we as devotees, understanding what our scriptures are telling us of preserving this male energy, and then as opposed to what scientists are saying of releasing them, whereas our philosophy, our scientific teachings teach that we have to preserve it. So his question is, how do we let devotees understand what it is and what to do?
Yeah.
And if I can cover up that, if
Okay.
just before Maharaj. Yeah. So the reason they're giving, their explanation is that there's a lot of toxin that gets stored up in the prostate, and the way this toxin can be released is through ejaculation.
So that's
So if you're not,
that's not difficult. Why the hell the toxin's developing in the first place is the problem. It's not the solution just to do that way of doing it. The toxins should be removed. The toxins are building up because of other reasons. Now, this subject matter of having a lot of sex or whatever you call it, has been a topic of discussion, and we did quote one older philosopher, comes sort of whatever. I guess Emerson's a philosopher, I guess, on this subject matter. And there are many scientists who've quoted on this subject matter in the past. You can quote many throughout the course of history, not just over the last 2 years, of some lusty person or whatever they may be, creating a lusty ideas based on nothing, no confirmed evidence necessarily, or some vague evidences, which are, it's like you're basing an argument on a false pretense to begin with, toxins building up in the prostate. Well, that's unnatural in of itself. It is the whole thing is a package deal of demoniac, you could say, lifestyle in so many ways. So what do you expect? You can't expect a godly result from such a lifestyle. So from a scientific point of view, I don't know what relevance there is from that. And we know that that's not our goal of life anyway. If that's what the goal of life of people is just to avoid prostate cancer, God bless them. But that's not the goal of life by any means. I mean, this thing with prostate cancer is another one of those things that have come up immensely in the last 40, 50 years when, let's say, the looseness in the world of sexual indulgence has increased considerably. Yet they say that, that you can avoid it by having more sex. But, I mean, people are much more restrained in general in other cultures of the world. I've never heard of prostate cancer being a big issue in cultures where they were more restrained. And even to today, maybe, I don't know, I've never heard of it. Maybe in the West, because of the whole unnatural social structure and lifestyle, etc., thinking like that. But in reality, I mean, throughout the course of history, this is a new philosophy. It's not something which is upheld, to my knowledge, but whatever I've read, there's a whole papers were written by different doctors in the last century, early part of the previous century, on the importance of not losing your semen and how cultures became strong. Even Emerson said, heroes or great personalities are completely related to not having this looseness in this particular area of behavior. But they're talking like this. Why? Well, one of the reasons being is obvious is that, people become weak. They become incapable of thinking straight and properly. They lose their memories. They can't challenge anyone anymore. They can't control any other sense whatsoever. And they're easily manipulated. They're just like dumb. You know what I mean? So it's a good way of making people stupid in one sense. To convince them
Well,
of it's a
all
tool.
right. Thank you for saying that. I think there are three hands up, Maharaj. But one other thing these scientists say, which to me is, well, I can't insult them, but it's very weird, very, very weird, is that these same scientists are saying that one should not take frequent shower, because the more you take shower, the more you wash off the important layer on the epidermis, the top layer of the skin, which is meant to fight extra. So they come up with all sort of things that if one is not very careful, one may just go by what they say. But what I try to do is that if the scientists say one particular thing and the Vedas says something else about that same particular thing, I hope and pray to go with what the Vedas say.
Well, that's what Prabhupada said, isn't it? He said, you can follow your scientists who are
Yeah.
always changing their theories anyway. I know
Yeah.
Hanan just said there's a lot of, what did he say? He said something just now, I saw it pop up. There's a lot of corruption. I don't know much about these things. And it's known that 40 to 65% of published findings fail to replicate. They just come one day and gone the next.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
things are not. They're
Yeah.
not scientific facts. They're theories. They're based on slim foundation, not upheld by history or by cultures worldwide, certainly not by Vedas or any scriptural injunctions. And they're theories, and oftentimes people cannot decipher the difference between a theory and a fact. And they tend to accept both the theory as being, a new truth and apply it. And it's too late by the time they get to realize it's actually not a truth at all. It's amazing. I mean, it's quite an amazing, say, reflection or picture of how things are going. And it's quite incredible. And Prabhupada said, we follow the Vedas. You can follow your scientists if you want. The scientist is not going to take you back to Godhead.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have prostate cancer, it's not going to take you back to Godhead. You can have prostate cancer and go back to Godhead, by the way. It's not a disqualification.
Yeah.
I don't know if the figures are higher amongst them. I've got no idea. I know that men over 50 are subject more than those under. We always hear that. That's what they always tell us. So I guess it's true. Yeah.
Kalia Krishna Prabhu, you may unmute. Sorry, you've had your...
Hamsaduta or Kalia Krishna? Who's first?
Kalia Krishna first.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and thank you very much for the wonderful lecture. And I have a quite simple question, but I have to get to it first somehow. Before you very mercifully gave me initiation last year, I have been living in a concept of rather dry dry renunciation and like just try to control your mind, and it will, and eventually the desires will go away. And I found out that rather than the desires going away, they would rather come back even stronger the next day or next. So didn't really work for me. But it was something I have been taught in the society of devotees I was associating with. And after after you gave me the initiation, my devotional life took quite a sharp turn, I would say, because I have been studying Hare Chintamani, and I've been really associating with like the different group of devotees, I would say, which were more like focused on the artha pravarti, the like the positive fulfillment in Krishna consciousness. I've been associating with a group of devotees headed by Lila Purusham Prabhu, who gave me and my wife like a great opportunity to serve, do some service for their beautiful deities of Radha and Krishna, and we have been having sangha like every evening we're having sangha discussing Srimad Bhagavatam like in a philosophical way, and also like Krishna Katha, and it has been like really wonderful, and I can see that like filling my life with devotional service is doing me much better service in this like um getting rid of these lusty desires than just trying to control the mind. And I would like to ask you if I'm on the right path with this.
This is an all-pervasive subject matter in one sense, because it's completely related, one on both this plane and the next. On this plane, it's a case of doing that which is appropriate, and we could make a very simple example. Say, for instance, in Varna ashram, when a person is very absorbed in what their nature is, they are generally very absorbed. They don't have a disturbance to do other things. Their mind is satisfied, their family is satisfied, and they're satisfied, and they're completely absorbed. So even if some other temptation comes along, they're not interested because they're satisfied. That's the Vedic system is meant to work in that direction. There isn't an implementation of distraction, which we face now with so many different medias and whatever else you see around you in this world. Life was organized for a higher purpose, so that was minimized also. I mean, sexual attraction is always there, no matter what system you've got. But basically, when you're satisfied doing what you're doing, you're not so disturbed. When you're not satisfied doing what you're doing, then you'll be easily disturbed, generally speaking, by other things. So that's on just a day-to-day basis. On the spiritual platform, a devotee has to be nourished. We have to be nourished. We have to have that spiritual nourishment. Positive nourishment is the same thing in a sense, engagement, but it's more direct. It's not just about a material thing, which we like to say. You're very attracted for farming or something, you'll be happy just farming all day long. You won't want to go anywhere else to do anything else, or go running off with a girl around the corner. You'll be completely satisfied with what you're doing, or more satisfied, let's say. When we're not in the right situation, it's easier to be. And the same thing, spiritual association of devotees. So when you are one of these symptoms of the advancement of spiritual life is we're not so attracted to these lower tendencies. They're not. They may be there, but we're not so attracted. If we're attracted, and probably we're doing something more, getting more attracted. Sometimes in the beginning, as Prabhupada says, when we're cleaning a room, that the dirt comes up. It doesn't. It's not like everything, can be seen immediately. These are deep, deep set samskaras, and they pop their nose up. Hey, what's going on around here? You're trying to get rid of me or something? Then it's almost like they pop their nose up and make their presence felt. Material desires sometimes come on like that. And that was discussed in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti, actually. but how the devotee just carries on, even though there's seemingly increased amount of desires, they still persevere. But if at the same time, if you find don't be blind about it, that that necessarily we're transcendental to it now, we don't have to worry. We still have to be very careful. Material desires, lust is very powerful. But yes, if we're in a good association and we're absorbing our minds in hearing and chanting, and we're feeling inspired, we're feeling happier and happier doing that. This is the other side of it, not just happy doing what we like doing, but happy hearing and chanting about name, form, pastimes, qualities of Krishna, whatever it is, discussing, keeping engaged in appropriate service, and trying to hear and chant at the same time. What Prabhupada said, we try to keep it fully engaged and at the same time cultivate our chanting and hearing. So if you're getting that, that's nice. But still don't get too, let's say, overconfident in that regards. Always take shelter of the holy name, take shelter of the Lord, pray and understand that we are in a sense we're helpless without his shelter. We have to take shelter of him always. Anyway, it's a very big topic matter, but if you're feeling that inspiration, that sounds very good. Sounds very good. There are other symptoms too. We just have to see how it's actually affecting our appreciation for other devotees, how it's actually reducing our feelings of negativity towards other devotees, our enthusiasm to render service to other Vaishnavas. All these things should be symptomatic also, and not just, our own, so to speak, little world that we're in, but a little bit broader. That should be a result. In other words, we're not affected by others who are perhaps not seeing things the same way, but rather we're very inspired that they're also inspired and doing their service, seeing the good in others. So many different factors are there, which is not just one factor, many. But in general, yes, if the material desires are not disturbing us, even if they're present, and if your attraction to hearing and chanting about Krishna, these are two primary symptoms of receiving good fortune, of progressing in spiritual life. But still always remain very humble and remain, very dependent and helpless without the mercy of the Lord. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. I'll take your words to my heart.
And
Hare Krishna.
is he still there? I think maybe not there anymore.
We have Thakur Murari Prabhu's hand up.
Sadhuta, he's gone, I think, hasn't he?
I think Sadhuta is still here.
Is he?
So after Thakur Murari Prabhu, then we may go to him. Thakur, you may unmute, please. Go ahead.
There he is. He's in the car.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my own obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and the assembly devotees. So, very interesting discussion, and as we agree, it's a subject matter not very palatable, but something we have to deal with. So, there is a book by His Holiness Dhanabhyam Goswami entitled Brain Gain, the Wisdom of Celibacy and Chastity.
Brain drain, brain gain.
Yes, brain gain. He said he didn't want to entitle brain drain. He entitled instead brain gain. So it tells you what you gain by being celibate and chaste and chaste.
Yeah, well, that's what all the scientists used to say.
By His Holiness Dhanabhyam Maharaj, brain gain, the wisdom of celibacy and chastity.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's true. I mean, there's whole big documents on explaining the whole cultures in Europe became powerful by understanding this principle. There are whole papers on the importance or value of it, both from the point of view of clarity of vision. Again, we're talking of a situation which it's not necessarily a black and white one. I mean, there are certain persons with certain levels of consciousness, and one has to see that to simply restrain by hook or by crook is not necessarily the best thing. They should try to do the legal way of dealing with it. But the principle is that society should be arranged in such a way as to educate people and facilitate people for both the attached and the detached. It should be facilitating it and not kind of trying to influence people in such a way that there's no hope of anything but the direction of influence. But they should be facilitating this higher purpose rather than trying to remove it from the education of people. I mean, there was one school, for instance, in Kansas City. It's interesting because Daniel Goswami is based here. This is way before he ever went there. This article goes back to the 70s, but I remember reading it. It was an article regarding a court case. The federal government made a rule that that all the schools had to introduce safe sex education at a certain age. I can't remember what the age was. It's much lower now, but they introduced it as a rule. And this one headmistress of a school in Kansas refused to accept it as part of her course in the school. So they said, then we have to sack you. We have to fire you. She took them to court. It went to court. And in the court case, her point was, okay, I agree to do this, but you also have to add into that education and of such that you don't have to have sex. It's not that you have to have it and you have to know how to do it safely, but actually to educating the children that they don't absolutely have to have it. And at least she was a religious person, I guess, but only in married life she had this concept. She won the case. And they had to accept that, at least in her case. But people don't think much like that. There's no education to training people in that kind of way. There's nothing of the higher purposes of life. And, otherwise, what hope have they got if they don't know any higher purpose behind it all, and they don't have any good association, and are exposed to it all the time on social media or on the mobile, or on the television, or wherever it is, all around them in the streets? It's really difficult for people to possibly live, with a life of retention or whatever. It's very difficult. I mean, it just is. The education's lacking. Baba said clearly, that's what's required, culture and education. There's no culture, there's no education. What do we expect? Expect an animal society, basically. That's basically what we're faced with. Baba said sophisticated animal society. It's not really human society. Human society starts with one ashram. So, for people who are at a certain level, it's not expected. But for those who are eligible, they would be educated according to their eligibility. But they would be guided to at least, monitor it and not just, give up and just become an animal. Even animals regulate it. They're not like anywhere and everywhere, day and night. They have their regulation. But in human beings, it's a real challenge. And we know, I mean, kids, they're not, I mean, what can you do? I mean, it's just so full, and kids had, having sex 3 times a day with themselves, it's like goes on regularly in society nowadays. It's not a big deal. People think it's healthy for you, it's good for you. They don't realize what it's doing to you. How it's really sucking your real energy, maybe not your bones and muscles, but it's sucking the real life airs of the living entity. And the ability to see things beyond the body and the bodily condition of life, just destroying the capacity there. But what to do? Education, culture, example, and prayer. Chant Hare Krishna, Prabhupada said, it's the only hope in this age, isn't it? No matter what our condition. Oh, come on, most Westerners are coming from a pretty licentious background. I can't speak for those who are online right now, but I know most of the devotees who joined when I joined. They were coming from a pretty licentious background. The only hope was the holy name and full absorption in devotional service. Being so absorbed in service, you were happy. You had no time to think about these things. You were so busy in service. chanting, dancing, serving. We had no time to think about it. For a long time that went on. But the ways of the world being what they are, and deep-rooted samskaras or deep-rooted tendencies come up at a certain point and have to be dealt with, and they require that they require that very intensive devotional service to burn them out. It's rare. It's got to be. I mean, we can't just stay at the same level and expect the same result. We should be also searching for that which will help us to progress further in spiritual life, you could say, in terms of more seriousness and chanting and hearing the holy name, more faith in the holy name, and so on and so forth, but especially deep chanting of the holy names and Shastic hearing Shastra. Very, I mean, individually, collectively, probably you could say the same thing, how important it is to free us individually and collectively from the danger of watering everything down and becoming like anyone else, a kind of wishy-washy movement. There's going to be wishy-washy everywhere, but the heart of the movement should be strong, clear, compassionate, accommodating, but accommodating properly, not just accommodating everyone on the same level. This idea of equality is not a reality. Equality is a spiritual concept, not a material one. There's no material equality. And it's a matter of finding one's position and acting accordingly, and the leaders, we're not pointing the finger at anyone, ourselves as opposed to leaders, but the leaders are meant to be able to facilitate that, to help people to find their more natural role materially in ashram and varna, or whatever it may be, and encourage everyone to chant the holy name of Krishna. But it's very rare to find, very rare soul, as it says. Such a person is very rare who can actually, actually above these influences. Very rare soul.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Maharaj. Hamsadutta, I'm not sure whether you still have something to share or to ask. And
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Maharaj,
Krishna.
please kindly accept my humble respect of obeisance to the divine Lotus feet. All glory to the Krishna Prabhupada, and all praise to wonderful as I went to devotees.
Wow.
Thank you for the wonderful class.
You're above all for Hamsadutta. You're above all these modes of nature. Pass of the swan.
You have my answers when we are answering other questions, so I just want to say thank you.
Oh.
I think we've gone over time. It's 7:30.
Please excuse, I didn't hear 12, please.
Yeah, well, it's 7:30 here. That's 2.5 hours almost.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you longer.
Yeah,
So
we've
thank
been
you
here
so
for
much,
2.5 hours.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
I've probably been sleeping through the last 2.5 hours now. Maybe. Wake up, wake up.
Jim Jago, Jim Jago.
Jago.
Well, Maharaj, thank you so much. From the topic, the theme, and the kata you shared with us, some of the questions that came up, I am praying and hoping that somehow or other we will be able to establish the 50% job that Srila Prabhupada said he didn't finish. He gave it to us to finish it, which is the Varnashram. Because as I was listening to you, if we are able to establish the Varnashram system, then this sound education will be shared in the world. And
it will evolve when it's going to evolve by,
okay.
The Lord, it's going to evolve. We do our best, but it's going to evolve.
Yeah.
We may not know what that means, how that can be done. That's why Prabhupada didn't himself go further than London on his way to Gitanagari. He didn't go there to start setting things in motion. So it seems to me that there's going to have to be some inner involvement within our consciousness before it becomes clear how that fits in. I mean, that sounds a cop-out, but that's just the way I see it, because everyone's, you're back to Raghava Maharaj and others sincerely trying to do something there. And there's something definitely going on in different places. There's no doubt about that. But It's difficult to sort of, especially in the Western world, it's a little easier. Let's see, farming is a lot easier in the Eastern Orient and so on. In the West, it's really difficult, So many laws which are in place which do inhibit, you could say, inhibit endeavors in that regard. So many financial demands, legal demands, social demands, and so on and so forth, limitations in inhibiting the possibility of developing, plus the fact that, it's the whole structure of authority and respect has become somewhat eroded. It's difficult. Who tells who to do what? It's like interpretations are rampant, and purity isn't necessarily the force which is driving many of the motivations. So what to do? But I'm just hopeful that Krishna's got a plan. I mean, I guess everyone is. But there's definitely a plan. If that's to be, it's going to happen. He's going to, someone's going to come forth and it's going to start developing. It's already developing in some fields, but not in many. And, there are devotees like Amrila and others who are, teaching, rightly or wrongly, but teaching devotees to find themselves. A lot's about finding it with one's own position in terms of the society, finding our own level, not trying to imitate someone else, but finding one's own level and acting as best you can according to that level. That's a good start, even if you haven't got a structure around you which facilitates it, but at least trying to find one's own position more, rather than trying to imitate someone else because of social institutional pressures or one's own false ego or something, but to try to, see what Krishna's given us. Prabhupada writes in Ishopanishad that, Ishopanishads teach us to play the part designated to us by God and not imitate others. But to find that is a challenge, there's no doubt. But, and that more that devotees find themselves and not trying to force themselves on others, trying to make everyone else be like them or something. Maybe things will start moving. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah. The temple has a tendency to try to clone everybody, try to make everyone.
That would work. To work.
Yeah. That's tendencies are there, and there's a room for everything. But that's not the solution. That's not the long-term overall policy. That's just one aspect of society. The temple is for Brahmins. It's for Brahmins, people who've got Brahminical tendencies to focus on. But the temple's for everyone, but not that they should be expected to, respond like the Brahminical aspect. And that's making it a bit discriminatory maybe, but that's just the way it is. People react differently to the same thing, whether it's cleanliness, whether it's, enthusiasm towards things. They have an enthusiasm towards something else, and that's where you have to see they belong, rather than what you're enthusiastic for. Shastras say many things. Prabhupada wanted first a society of Brahmins. But Brahmins are meant to be very broad-minded. They're not meant to be, fanatics who just think everyone should be like them. They're very broad-minded. To see how everyone's a part and everyone has a part to play in the society and the Lord Chaitanya's movement. Lord Chaitanya wasn't treating everyone the same. He treated Ramananda Roy differently to Rupa Goswami. He treated Rupa Goswami differently to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, what to speak of the general public. Mm-hmm. The goal was the same, but the relationship was different.
Different.
We have to see that. We're not clones. We may be clowns, but we're not clones.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to unmute. Well, before you unmute, we would like
unmute and shoot. Unmute and shoot. Boom! Haribol!
Well, yes, we're going to do that.
Haribol!
Haribol! We're going to do that.
If you unmute, shoot, you'll see the flute.
Okay, Maharaj.
Flute of material existence.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol!
So, dear devotees, before you unmute, we would like to register our deepest appreciation and thanks to you all for staying here for 2.5 hours.
And 3 minutes.
Yes, that indicates how much you have so much love for Srimad Bhagavatam. And we thank you all so much for your
We
association.
read a
Now,
lot of the Bhagavatam tonight, although it wasn't normal Bhagavatam Katha. It was related to this particular topic. So you could say that.
well, it is in the Bhagavatam, so yes.
You've got to kill the demons first before you can, you know.
Of course, I agree to that, Maharaj.
Yeah.
So devotees will be all on mute and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Rama Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Pancha Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to His Holiness Janananda Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Samud Vaishnava Vaishnavi devotees Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare